Mr. Speaker, there has never been such a farce as a government with a majority of minus 45 and a 100% record of defeat in the House of Commons, setting out a legislative agenda they know cannot be delivered in this Parliament. And, honourable members, heckles about a general election. I said to the Prime Minister last month, get an extension, take us away from the dangers of a no deal, and then we're in a position to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, we may only be just weeks away from the first Queen's speech of a Labour government. And in that Queen's speech, Labour will put forward the most radical and people-focused programme in modern times. A once-in-a-generation chance to rebuild and transform our country. It will let the people decide on Brexit, build an economy that works for all, rebuild our public services that support everyone, tackle the climate emergency and reset our global role to one based on peace and human rights.
I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman for giving way. The Prime Minister gave the right honourable gentleman the opportunity of having a general election tomorrow. Had that general election taken place tomorrow, if he'd have been successful, he would have been going to the Council of Ministers this weekend to negotiate. Why did he reject that opportunity when he's been calling for it all the time?
Quite simply, Mr. Speaker, because we don't trust the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government has had 3.5 years to get Brexit done, and they've failed. The only legitimate way to sort Brexit now is to let the people decide with a final say. To pass this House, any deal needs to meet the needs of workers and businesses. That means including a new customs union, a close single market relationship, and guarantees of workers' rights, consumer standards and environmental protection. And, if I may say so, guarantees that the Good Friday Agreement will not be damaged or undermined in any way. A withdrawal agreement was announced, but we don't know yet if the government has done a deal. What we are sure of is that this House has legislated against crashing out with no deal, and that the Prime Minister must comply with the law if a deal does not pass this House. The Queen's speech talked about the opportunities that arise from Brexit, but the government's own figures suggest a free trade agreement approach will cause a near 7% hit to our economy, while a no-deal crash-out would cause a 10% hit. These seem like the opportunities that we could all live without. For many people, Mr. Speaker, the economy of this country is fundamentally weak. Since 2010, there are more workers in poverty, more children in poverty, more pensioners in poverty. There are more families without a home to call their own, and more people, fellow citizens, sleeping rough on our streets. Fewer people can afford their own home, and wages are still lower than they were a decade ago. Productivity is falling, and the economy contracted last month. At the weekend, Mr. Speaker, I was in Hastings on the south coast, where last year food banks, staffed by volunteers, distributed 87,000 453 meals, and 1 in 7 people in that town live in fuel poverty. Are those not shocking figures in this country in the 21st century? There was nothing in the Queen's speech to address our stagnant economy, nothing to address low pay and insecure work, nothing to reverse the rising levels of child poverty or of pensioner poverty. So,
Go on, Seymour.